Hello everyone, welcome to Prelims warm-up. This initiative has been brought to you by Actiplus Academy for Civil Services, and my name is Shaikh Datta. I'm the faculty for Geography and Environment at Actiplus Academy for Civil Services. So in this initiative, we are discussing 5 questions every day, which have been asked in the previous year UPSC Prelims examination. So let us see the first question for today. The first question for today, it was asked in UPSC Prelims 2018. The question is asking, consider the following statements. The first statement is, the Parliament of India can place a particular law in the ninth schedule of the Constitution of India. It is the Parliament of India which can place a particular law in the ninth schedule of the Constitution of India. And the second statement is saying the validity of a law placed in the ninth schedule cannot be examined by any court and no judgment can be made on it. Okay. First statement is the Parliament of India can place a particular law in the ninth schedule of the Constitution of India. Just 1 second. So I hope the screen is visible now. So, okay. So the first question, as you can see over here, this question, it was asked in UPSC Prelims 2018. And I'll just repeat the question for you. There was some technical snag previously. So the first statement is saying that the Parliament of India can place a particular law in the ninth schedule of the Constitution of India. And the second statement is saying that the validity of a law placed in the ninth schedule cannot be examined by any court and no judgment can be made on it. So these are the two statements which have been given and you have to find out the correct statement. So let us look at the explanation part for this. The ninth schedule, it was added to the Constitution by the First Amendment in 1951. So for the First Amendment Act, which took place in 1951 for the Constitution of India. So the ninth schedule was actually added to the Constitution of India by this First Amendment Act in 1951, along with Articles 31B, with a view to provide a protective umbrella to land reform laws to save them from being challenged in the courts on the ground of violation of fundamental rights. Okay. So mainly what was done is the land reform laws, in order to protect them from being challenged in the courts on the grounds of violating the fundamental rights, these laws, these land reform laws, they were placed under the ninth schedule. That is why the ninth schedule was added with the First Amendment of the Indian Constitution in the year 1951. So that those laws, the land reform laws, those do not get challenged in the courts. The Supreme Court upheld the validity of Article 31B and the Parliament's power to place a particular law in the ninth schedule. The Supreme Court, it upheld the validity of Article 31B and the Parliament's power to place a particular law in the ninth schedule. Hence, the first statement is correct. Next, the Supreme Court has said that laws placed in the ninth schedule are open to judicial scrutiny and such laws do not enjoy a blanket protection. Okay, so as you can understand from the second statement which was there, that the validity of a law placed in the ninth schedule cannot be examined by any court and no judgment can be made on it. So that is incorrect, because the Supreme Court has said that laws which are placed in the ninth schedule, they are open to judicial scrutiny and such laws, they do not enjoy a blanket protection. Also, laws placed in the ninth schedule after the Keshavananda Bharati judgment of 1973, when it propounded the basic structure doctrine, they were open to challenge. So laws, especially those which have been placed in the ninth schedule, because in the Keshavananda Bharati case of 1973, we get to see that the terms basic structure of the Constitution, that got coined. And as a result of which, after the Keshavananda Bharati case, even those laws which are placed in the ninth schedule, they are open to judicial scrutiny in order to check whether they are violating the basic structure doctrine of the Constitution. So the first statement is correct, the second statement is incorrect. So the right answer is A, one only. Moving on to the second question, and this question was also asked in UPSC 2018. The question is asking which one of the following best describes the term merchant discount rate, or MDR. So out of the given options, you have to check which is the best description for MDR, or the merchant discount rate, which is sometimes seen in use. A, the incentive given by a bank to a merchant for accepting payments through debit card pertaining to that bank. Okay. the incentive given by a bank to a merchant for accepting payments to debit cards pertaining to that bank. 2, that is B, the amount paid back by banks to their customers when they use debit cards for financial transactions for purchasing goods or services. C, the charge to a merchant by a bank for accepting payments from his customers through the bank's debit card. And D, the incentive given by the government to merchants for promoting digital payments by their customers through point of sale machines and debit cards. So which out of this is the best description for merchant discount rate, which is seen in the news? So let us see. So merchant discount rate, it is a fee. It is a fee which is charged from a merchant by a bank for accepting payments from customers through credit and debit cards in their establishments. So what is this merchant discount rate? It is a fee which is charged from a merchant by a bank for accepting payments from customers through credit and debit cards in their particular. So if somebody has a shop and they are accepting payments through some bank's credit card or debit card, in that case the shopkeeper, the shop owner will have to pay a particular charge, and that charge or that fee is what is called as the merchant discount rate. It compensates the card issuing bank, the lender which puts the point of sale terminal and payment gateways such as MasterCard or Visa for their services. MDR charges are usually shared in pre-agreed proportion between the bank and a merchant, and it is expressed in percentage of the transaction amount. So once again, what is merchant discount rate? It is a fee which is charged from a merchant by a bank for accepting payments from customers through credit and debit cards in their establishments. What it does, it compensates the card issuing bank, the lender which puts the point of sale terminal and the payment gateways such as MasterCards, Visa cards, etc. for their services. So mainly it compensates the bank which has issued the card, plus it also compensates the lender who has put in the point of sale machine, as well as gateways, payment gateways such as MasterCard, Visa. So to compensate all of them, this particular fee is charged from the merchant or from the businessman. MDR charges, they are usually shared in pre-agreed proportion between the bank and the merchants, and it is expressed in percentage of transaction amount. So it is expressed in percentage of transaction amount. So whatever is the transaction amount, a percentage of that will have to be paid in the form of merchant discount rate. Next, the next question is, that is question number 3. We get to see this is also asked from UPSC Prelims 2019, 2018 question paper. So what is or are the consequences of a country being the member of the nuclear suppliers group? So we very frequently we get to see this term, nuclear suppliers group. So what are the consequences, or what is the consequence of a country which becomes a member of the nuclear suppliers group? And you have two options. Number one, it will have access to the latest and the most efficient nuclear technologies. And number two is it automatically becomes a member of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, or NPT. So when a particular country becomes a member of the nuclear suppliers group, number one, it will have access to the latest and the most efficient nuclear technologies. That is number first statement. Second statement is saying it automatically becomes a member of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT. So which out of this is correct? So out of the given statements, we get to see that number one, that is A, is the correct one, because NPT is a separate treaty altogether. Okay, so let us see the explanation. What does membership of the nuclear suppliers group, what does that imply? So membership of NSG, it means number one, access to technology for a range of uses, from medicine to building nuclear power plants for India. So if we have medicine, nuclear power plants, all these will be benefited if India becomes a member of NSG. From the NSG, which is essentially a traders cartel. So what is NSG? It is like a traders cartel. Okay. What is a cartel? A group of people who are controlling a particular market in terms of a particular good or service. So India, it has its own indigenously developed technology, but to get its hands on state-of-the-art technology that countries within the NSG possess, it has to become part of the group. So statement one is correct. So once a particular country becomes a member of NSG, then that particular country becomes eligible to receive state of the art technology so far as nuclear technology is concerned. India does have indigenously developed nuclear technology, but to get its hands on state of the art technology, it is necessary for India to become a part of the NSG. Next, with India committed to reducing dependence on fossil fuels and ensuring that 40% of its energy is sourced from renewable and clean sources, there is a pressing need to scale up nuclear power production, and this can only happen if India gains access to the NSG. Even if India today can buy power plants from the global market, so even if today India can buy power plants from the global market, thanks to the one-time NSG waiver which India received from USA in 2008, there are still many types of technologies India can be denied as it is outside the NSG. So try to understand, okay, with India being committed in the international forums, India has time and again reiterated its commitment to reducing dependence on fossil fuels like coal and petroleum and ensuring that 40% of its energy is sourced from renewable and clean sources. Hence, there is a there is a very urgent need for India to shift to nuclear power, which is a clean type of energy, and hence there's a pressing need to scale up nuclear power production, and this can only happen if India gains access to the NSG. And as we can see that the USA had granted India a waiver in 2008 by saying that even though India is not a part of NSG, India can still get hands off. I mean, it's hands-on technology, nuclear technology. But then again, there are many types of technology which India is not entitled to get because it is not a part of NSG yet, right? So that is another thing. Next, India could sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and gain access to all this know-how, but that would mean giving up its entire nuclear arsenal. And given that it is situated in an unstable and unpredictable neighborhood, India is unlikely to sign the NPT or accede to the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty or CTBT that puts curbs on any further nuclear tests. So to become an NSG member, India has to necessarily sign two agreements. One is the NPT, that is the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and the other is CTBT. So NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, basically means that India will not be giving access to the nuclear technology to other countries. So it will not proliferate this nuclear technology because that will make the entire world unstable. Second thing is the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty or CTBT, which puts curbs, which puts restrictions on any further nuclear tests by India. Now, because India is living with very hostile neighbors, one side we have China, on the other side we have Pakistan, both of which are nuclear armed, and hence it becomes almost, you can say, very foolish if India gives up its nuclear arsenals, which it has to give up if uh, India has to sign the NPT or the CTBT. So the thing is, all of these are interrelated, as you can see. First you sign NPT and CTBT, then only you can become a member of NSG. Of course, if you become a member of NSG, you get a lot of advantages, you get a lot of benefits. But then again, having to give up its nuclear arsenal, which acts like a deterrence, you can say, for large hostile neighbors like China and Pakistan, India is to unlikely to sign these two treaties, that is NPT and CTBT, and hence it is difficult for India also to become part of NSG. With access to latest technology, India can commercialize the production of nuclear power equipments. This in turn will boost innovation and high-tech manufacturing in India, and it can be leveraged for economic and strategic benefits. Also, this is so far as membership of NSG and what it implies that is concerned. The second statement that we have, and the second statement was saying that it will automatically, like if India signs or India becomes a part of NSG, it will automatically become a member of the NPT. So that is incorrect, because adherence to one or more of the NPT, the treaties of Pelindaba, Rarotonga, Talikopo, and Bangkok, and all these different equivalent international treaties on non-proliferation agreement, plus the full compliance with the obligations of such agreements. So that is very necessary for India to become a member of NSG. Okay? So adherence to one or more of the NPT or an equivalent international NPT or non-proliferation agreement, and full compliance with the obligations of such agreements, that is necessary for India to become a part of NSG. Hence, becoming a part of NSG does not automatically become If India becomes a part of NSG, that does not mean India will automatically become a member of NPT as well. That is separate. Support of international efforts towards non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and of their delivery vehicles. So all these are separate from NSG. NSG is different. It is only with regards to nuclear suppliers group, and you have separate treaties, separate international treaties which deal with non-proliferation. So the second statement is incorrect. The first statement is correct. So for question 3, A is the right answer. Moving on to question number 4. Question number 4 was also asked in UPSC Prelims 2018, and question number 4 is stating, with reference to India's decision to levy an equalization tax of 6% on online advertisement services offered by non-resident entities, which of the following statement is or are correct? Okay. Once again, with reference to India's decision to levy an equalization tax of 6% on online advertisement services offered by non-resident entities, which of the following statements is or are correct? First one, it is introduced as a part of the Income Tax Act. So this equalization tax of 6% on online advertisement services offered by non-resident entities. It is introduced as a part of the Income Tax Act. Number 2, non-resident entities that offer advertisement services in India can claim a tax credit in their home country under the Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. So let us just go to the question once again. With reference to India's decision to levy an equalization tax of 6% on online advertisement services offered by non-resident entities, which of the following statement is or are correct? So the first statement is introduced as a part of the Income Tax Act, and number 2 is non-resident entities that offer advertisement services in India can claim a tax credit in their home country under the Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. So which out of these two statements is correct? So over here we get to see neither of the statements, neither one nor two, neither of them are correct. So why is that the case? Let us try to understand what is this equalization tax of 6% on online advertisement services. So the equalization levy was introduced in India in 2016. What is the intention of taxing the digital transactions? That is the main objective, to tax the digital transactions. That is the income accruing to foreign e-commerce companies from India. So you have so many foreign e-commerce companies which are deriving or which are getting a huge part of the revenue from India. But since they are foreign companies, so that is why they do not have to pay tax so far as India is concerned. So main objective was to ensure that there is taxation of the digital transactions of the income which is going to these foreign e-commerce companies from India. It is aimed at taxing business to business transactions. Okay. As the levy was not introduced as a part of the Income Tax Act, so it was not. The first statement, as you can understand, is incorrect because this particular equivalence or this particular tax, that is the equalization tax, it was not a part of the Income Tax Act as such. So as the levy was not introduced as a part of the Income Tax Act, but it was a separate legislation under the Finance. So global firms that offer such services in India cannot claim a tax credit in their home country under the Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. So number 1, this particular equalization tax or equalization levy, it was not a part of the Income Tax Act, but it was a separate legislation under the Finance Bill. And the second thing that you should remember is the global firms which are deriving money from India or which are having to pay this equalization levy, they cannot claim a tax credit in their own country, stating that they have already paid taxes in India. So countries with which India has a double taxation avoidance agreement, the companies which belong to such countries, even they cannot claim tax credit in their home country, saying that they have already paid the taxes in India. So it is not applicable so far as these companies are concerned. So let us try to understand. It is introduced as a part of the Income Tax Act. No, it is a separate legislation, but under the Finance Bill. And second statement is saying non-resident entities that offer advertisement services in India can claim a tax rate in their home country under the Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. That is also incorrect. So the two statements are incorrect, and the right answer is D. The right answer is D, neither one nor two. Now let us go to the last question for today. That is question number 5. And this question was also asked in UPSC Prelims 2018. So you have three statements, and this is also from economics. So consider the following statements. The first statement is a Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee report. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management (FRBM), Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee report has recommended a debt to GDP ratio of 60% for the general government, that is both union and state government combined, by 2023, comprising 40% for the central government and 20% for the state government. So once again, the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee report, it has recommended a debt to GDP ratio of around 60% for both the governments combined by 2023, comprising 40% for the central government and 20% for the state government. The second statement is the central government has domestic liabilities of 21% of GDP as compared to that of 49% of GDP for the state government. So central government का कितना domestic liabilities are there? Around 21% of its GDP as compared to 49% of GDP of the state governments. And third statement is, as per the Constitution of India, it is mandatory for a state to take the central government's consent for raising any loan if the former owes any outstanding liabilities to the latter. Once again, as per the Constitution of India, it is mandatory for a state to take the central government's consent, that is permission, for raising any loan if the state owes any outstanding liabilities to the center. तब जाके the state will have to take the permission of the central government for raising any loan. So which out of these is or are correct? So let us see. The first statement. The FRBM Review Committee, its chairman was Mr. N.K. Singh. The FRBM Review Committee, whose chairman was Mr. N.K. Singh, submitted its report in January 2017, and the report was made public in April 2017. The committee suggested using debt as the primary target for fiscal policy. Debt should be used as the primary target for fiscal policy. A debt to GDP ratio of 60% should be targeted, with 40% limit for the center and 20% limit for the state. And the targeted debt to GDP ratio should be achieved by 2023. So the first statement that we have, that the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee report, which was chaired by Mr. N.K. Singh, it has recommended a debt to GDP ratio of 60% for both the governments combined, that is union government and state government, by 2023, out of which 40% will be the central government's debt as well as 20% for the state government. So that is correct. The committee suggested using debt as the primary target for fiscal policy, and a debt to GDP ratio of 60% should be targeted, with a 40% limit for the center and 20% limit for the states. So the targeted debt to GDP ratio should be achieved by 2023. So the first statement is correct. Now the second statement that we have, that the central government has domestic liabilities of 21% of GDP as compared to 49% of GDP of the state government. The central government has domestic liabilities of 21% of its GDP as compared to 49% of GDP for the state government. So let us understand this. The central government has domestic liabilities of 46.1% of GDP. So it is a greater share in case of the central government. So central government has domestic liabilities of around 46.1% of GDP, and as a percent of GDP, the state's liabilities have increased to around 23.2% at end of March 2016. So the second statement is incorrect. It said that the central government has domestic liabilities of around 21% of GDP. That is incorrect, because we get to see that the central government has domestic liabilities of around 46% of its GDP. And if we look at the state government either it has been given, the state government, they have a liability of around 49% of GDP. On the other hand, over here we get to see that the state government, it has a liability of around 23.2%. So it is incorrect. The second statement is incorrect. The third statement, as per the Constitution of India, it is mandatory for a state to take the central government's consent for raising any loan if the former owes, that is the state government owes any outstanding liability to the central government. So the Constitution of India, we get to see it empowers state governments to borrow only from domestic sources, that is Article 293(1), which says that the state governments can only borrow from domestic sources. Further, As long as the state has outstanding borrowings from the central government, it is required to obtain central government's prior approval before incurring debt under Article 293, Part 3. So, try to understand over here that the central government has domestic liabilities of around 46.1% of GDP. So that is much higher than what was stated in this particular statement. The central government has around liabilities of 21% of GDP. So it is not 21%, rather it is around 46.1% by the 2016-17 data. Next, it says that the state governments, they have a domestic liability of around 49% of GDP. So that is also incorrect, because we get to see that the central government's domestic liabilities is around 46.1%. Okay, 46.1%. So it is opposite almost. And as per the Constitution of India, it is mandatory for a state to take the central government's consent for raising any loan if the former, that is the state government, owes any outstanding liabilities to the latter. Latter matlab, it is over here central government. So if the state government owes any money to the central government, it will be mandatory for the state to take the central government's consent for raising any loan. Okay. So over here we get to see that the Constitution of India empowers the state government to borrow only from domestic sources, which is given by Article 293(1). Further, as long as the state has outstanding borrowings from central government, it is required to obtain central government's prior approval before incurring any kind of debt. Okay, so with this, we complete the 5 questions for today, and I hope you have learned new things over here. So again, we'll be back with another set of prelims form up. Till then, if you have liked the video, please like and share the video with people who are preparing for UPSC. Also, let us know in the comment section how you are liking the video, and at the same time, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for Aptitude Academy for Civil Services YouTube channel. So till next time, study hard and stay safe. Thank you so much.